Hello, everybody. I'd like to say thanks for having me tonight, and thanks for everybody for coming out. So as you just heard, my name is Stephen Daniels, and obviously I'm running for Santa Clarita City Council, and I'd like to ask for your support tonight. Now, if I were you, the question I'd want to ask right now is, who is this guy? Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Kentucky. You might hear the accent. I moved out here to get my master's at Cal Arts back in 1993. 6 months later, the Northridge earthquake hit. So I was out here when this town really had to pull itself up from the bootstraps, and I got to see what an amazing community Santa Clarita really is. After graduation, I lived in Hollywood for a few years. Then I met my wife, and when we decided to get married and have a family, we came to Santa Clarita because I love the town so much. It just reminds me of kind of the small-town atmosphere that I experienced when I grew up in Kentucky. We've been homeowners and living in Santa Clarita for 7 years now. We have an almost 3-year-old son. I'm a writer by education, but currently I work as a manager of communications for a homeless shelter in Hollywood for teens called Covenant House. Now, apart from running for treasurer in 3rd grade, I've really never done anything like this before. I am not a politician. So why am I running for city council? Well, it's really very simple. I want to make a difference. As I've watched my son grow, I've started thinking about his future. And part of the future is the future of the city. I have become genuinely concerned for the quality of the life of the citizens that currently live in Santa Clarita and what the future might hold for them, my family, and as I said, in particular, my son. I believe that the current city council has lost touch with the average voter in this great city, and in some cases, even taken a we know better than you attitude, regardless of what the people of the city want or need. I want to bring an attitude of common sense government for the people of Santa Clarita where decisions are based solely on which way will the people benefit the most. I want to restore the voice of the average voter back to the city council and protect this city for all generations, our seniors, ourselves, and most importantly, our children. I am concerned because I see a common ideology that exists not only with the current city council, but with the majority of the candidates that are currently running. I'm here to tell you honestly, I'm different. And hopefully tonight, as I do my best to answer your questions and concerns, I hope I can show you how different I really am. So I have 55 seconds left. Wow. I talk way too fast. Can I go ahead and just start with questions? Is that all right? Okay. Sure. First question. Anyone?
Hi, Lori Rivas.
Hi, Lori.
What is the role, in your opinion, what is the role of the Library Board of Trustees, and how is the current board served or not served in this capacity? Thank you.
Well, to my knowledge, the whole situation with the library system itself right now, I've gone on record as saying that I thought the whole situation, what they chose to do to separate from the LA County library system, was kind of ludicrous. Honestly, I think that the approach should be, what does the average patron need? My wife and I are both patrons. She reads ebooks and checks books out of the library. I go there to write and get some peace and quiet sometimes. But and I think that the approach needs to be taken as far as what I would think of it in terms of what is needed as an average patron. Yeah, I think that's the way I would go with that.
Hi, my name is Nanette Meister, resident of Newhall, and I'm very concerned, and all of my neighbors are concerned about Lyons Avenue extension and changing of 13th Street, rerouting our traffic. I've lived in the neighborhood where I've seen fires come down to my block wall, and if we do a lot of realigning of streets, I think it's a hazard for the neighbors. What do you know about the Plaza Rita extension and the change of the roads and the purchase of land of City Council person Laureen Weiss, which I think should be blocked by City Council?
Yeah, the situation with Laureen Weiss and the potential conflict of interest. I don't really want to get into pointing fingers at potential council members, incumbents, and I am aware of that. I think in general that there is an attitude right now at the council that development, build, without kind of thinking about the ramifications and of what might, or the repercussions of the way things are being built sometimes. I mean, there's been controversy about even the roundabout and the logic in that. To be honest with you, I even live in that area, and I don't drive that way, so I'm not even specifically sure about this the area you're talking about. But I'm happy to drive through it, talk to you a little bit more about it. my concern in general is that there is that kind of attitude of not thinking in advance about situations like, you know, is there easy access for fire trucks, for emergency vehicles, you know, for traffic itself in the city actually the entire town. You know, even with the situation with the red lights and stoplights, it's just I find myself questioning every day. It's like, well, why am I sitting at a light where there's no traffic for 15 minutes? And you know, why are they building this here? It doesn't seem to make sense or logic to it. So, yes, ma'am. I have to tell you right now, you look almost dead on to my sister. It's freaking me out a little bit. She's in Kentucky, and I'm going, did she come to visit?
I have 4 brothers. That's funny. I'm Gina Johnson. I'm a resident of Canyon Country. And should we have year-round permanent homeless shelters here? And
I
if
think
so, why?
Absolutely. Well, working for a homeless shelter, I'm very sensitive to that subject. And I think I spoke with Tim at the Bridge to Home shelter and talked to him a little bit about it. And Tim has a 3-year plan right now for establishing a permanent location for the shelter itself. I asked him about year-round shelter, and I think his attitude, just from what I was able to interpret from it, was I want to deal with what I have right now. And I don't want to think in terms of a year-round shelter. I think we need one. You know, I think a lot of times most crime and problems that happen in a lot of cities comes from desperation, when you don't have a place to stay and you need to survive. And a lot of times I have found that if you just, particularly with the youth that I work with, if you just give them a chance or an opportunity or a safe bed and a roof over their head, they can excel. And I think we should give them that opportunity, particularly year-round. You know, particularly, you know, when you think about the global warming situation and the heat and the way it's been in the summers right now, I can't. It seems like it's twice as threatening to be out in the summer without a place to stay than it is during the winter time. So I think it's something we should look into. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, my name is Todd Hoover, and I would like to know, as a city council member, what you would intend to do to fight against a significant property tax increase that we're going to be faced with if this chloride issue is not resolved and we have to wind up paying for this huge treatment plant.
Well, let me go on record right now to say I am not a politician, so I'm going to be very honest about how I feel about the chloride situation. The first thing I think it's important to remember is this chloride situation exists because the city council was asleep at the wheel and not paying attention as the developments were happening. That being said, you know, a lot of the fight that's been happening, it has been nothing but fights about, well, what is the content of the chloride? What is, you know, it's not, you know, it's fine, the water's fine, there's too much chloride, back and forth, back and forth. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. The state says that we don't have, you know, the chloride content's too high. We need to clean it up. And I am curious what the Commission on State Mandates will say about this. But I think the tough answer to that is if there was a factory upstream of us and they were dumping waste into our water system, we certainly wouldn't accept the answer of, well, it'll be fine, guys. It's not that bad. We'd say, no, clean it up. Now, what I think that the city hasn't done right now is go to, I noticed in an article in the Signal that the Ventura County farmers had wanted to work with the city of Santa Clarita, but they basically said that Santa Clarita didn't want to talk to them. And I think it's time that we went to Ventura County farmers, the state, and try to work with all 3 parties and try and come up with a mutual solution that would ease the burden of the tax on the city of Santa Clarita. And then maybe put a tax on the developers because they're responsible for what happened. So.
Hi, my name is Carol Schroed, and I have a question for you.
Hi, Carol.
Would you be in charge of, would you be in favor of changing the charter regard to the election of mayor and council instead of just rotating the mayor among themselves?
Absolutely. I think the charter that existed when the city was founded worked initially, but the city has doubled in size since then. And really, people talk about voter apathy with the city council, with elections, the municipal elections in general. And I think the reason is because our city council has lost touch to the average citizen. Now, districting and a city-elected mayor, well, think about it for a second. A mayor could set an agenda and say, this is what I want to do. in the next 4 years. And the city could vote on that idea, and those principles, those basic outlines. Right now, you have a city council with a mayor kind of floating around, every year changing and things like that. And it's more of a ceremonial position. Carl Boyer's come out for one, for city elected mayor, and as well as district elected council members. How much time I have? 30 seconds left. But I think it's a good idea. Even if you look at U.S. history, the Articles of Confederation came before the Constitution, and then why did they rewrite it and come up with the Constitution? Because they found that they didn't have a good central power figure, authority figure, or an executive branch to lead the city or lead the nation. And the idea of district elected council members and a mayor works in almost every city in the United States. Why don't we try to do the same thing? So.
This is a question I'm asking for Sandra Cattell from the Sierra Club. She couldn't be here tonight and asked me to do this. She asks, what are the most important environmental issues confronting our community, in your opinion?
Without question, I think it's Whitaker-Burmite. And then CMEX probably right underneath that. And Whitaker-Burmite in particular really bothers me because I was looking at the website that the City Council has set up, and they haven't updated it in over 3 years. Seems like if they had some news, they'd probably put it on the website. And really, the analogy I use when I talk about Whitaker-Burmite is it is as if there is a fire burning a house down and there are people in it, and the city council standing on the sideline going, well, who's going to put out the fire, and who's going to pay for it, and what could we build there afterwards? And meanwhile, the fire is burning. Now, that water, the ground wells are getting infected by the chemicals in that area. And really, I think it's not an issue of what development is going to be built there. It's not an issue if there's going to be a road there. It's that it needs to be cleaned up, and the city needs to take the lead and do it. Just do it. End of story. And then deal with development and other ideas afterwards. I don't think I have time to talk about CMEX right now. Do I? I have 20 seconds. 25 seconds. And CMEX, well, everybody seems to be depending on SB 771 to pass. Well, I'm worried that it's not going to pass, and I think we need to address that idea, some ideas as to what we could do if it doesn't pass. And I have 5 seconds. I don't have time to explain it, so someone else ask that question, please.
Hi, my name is Brian Springer. I live in Canyon Country. In your materials, you mentioned bringing the libraries back to the public. Mm-hmm. What is your approach or what is your vision for that statement?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a situation where I just think that the decision to basically put it through a private company to handle the library was a bad idea. Now, do I have an actual plan to how we can take it back to the public and bring it back to LA County? No, I haven't broken that down yet. It's basically an idea in principle. I think the idea of the library system, it is called a public library. It is supposed to be owned, run, and by the public. And right now it's privatized, run by a private company outside of the state of California. And, from what I understand, a lot of it was, we're going to save money. Well, government isn't into to be there to make a profit. Government's supposed to serve the people regardless of the situation. And I think that ultimately I would like to see it return back to the LA County system. Recently, my wife was trying to get a book off one of the e-books, and she told me, I can't find it on the system here, but I know it's available in the LA County system. And, I just think that we should look into trying to return it back. It may not be feasible cost-wise, which I think might be unfortunate. So.
And this is from me.
Okay.
Cher Gilmore. What do you think that we can do locally that would facilitate cutting down carbon emissions? I know we can't solve the whole problem, obviously, but what would you suggest that we do locally to address the issue of global warming?
Gosh, where do I start? But what do they say? The longest journey starts with the first step, was a single step. I think first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to see if we can lower the age for the buses for our senior citizens. That might actually relieve some congestion in traffic. I'd like to see some situations where we offer incentives to businesses and homeowners for going green in certain ways, like with solar or better window installation, things like that. And I'd also like to see situations where we might look into possibly low-income housing. So people that are working at minimum wage jobs don't necessarily have to commute from Acton or Palmdale or Sylmar just to come into work, because that's just all that's doing is creating more traffic for all of us and more congestion and air pollution. So. You again.
I'm always back there. The Jersey girl reigns. Do you believe in term limits, and why?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think we have a problem. I've been kind of hit by both parties on the issue about term limits being a bad idea, and I don't think it is. And there's a reason that term limits exist for the President of the United States. The reason George Washington stepped down after 2 terms is because he was worried about the dangers of incumbency. And really, when you look at, I think Marshall McLean's been there for 12 years. Lorraine West has been there for 16. How long do you need to get your ideas out there? I mean, after a certain point, it's necessary to bring new blood to the table because they're going to bring new ideas. For example, I'm going to get up there and ask questions I guarantee you somebody may not have asked in a long time. And if they say, well, you can't do that, I'm going to say, well, why not? I think what happens is after a certain point in time, incumbency basically hurts our democracy. And it's really particularly with the Santa Clarita City Council. So, Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Petzold. I'm lawfully domiciled in the Saugus area of Santa Clarita.
Hi, Steve.
My question revolves around compensation that's paid to municipal employees here in the city of Santa Clarita. I've seen several articles that indicated at first that the average salary was $70,000 or $30,000. Then after further investigation, that didn't include full-time employees that are at $70,000 in salary plus wages and benefits. There was an article in the Signal this morning that certainly referred to the fact that municipalities in the states are going to have to accelerate their pension payments. And I was wondering, would you be in favor of hiring an independent consultant to evaluate overall city employee compensation and whether that's benchmarked against other municipalities and against other private companies that are in this area to see whether that level, how that level is compares to others? So.
I wouldn't say no to that, Steve, but I think your point is what you're driving at is maybe they're paid too much. But keep in mind that if we did the study, we might find out that they're not paid enough. So my family I grew up in the capital of Kentucky, and almost all of them, my entire family were all state workers. And there was a controversy at one point with my aunt because she was making way too much money, I think in the $70,000 range, and there was complaints about it and things. But when I sat down and talked to my aunt, a lot of the pay, and I don't know this for a fact, but if this applies to the city, but it was like when it was broken down to compensation time, leave time, everything, it actually balanced out to a larger salary than it actually, quote unquote, was. And really, I'm not opposed to doing the study, but I do think in terms, you have to pay a good wage to get the best type of employee. And studies have shown that good pay encourages good morale, good productivity. So I'm not going to say no to that. I definitely, and we've talked about this, I would take it under consideration, but I do think we might also find that we might be underpaying them just as much as we might be overpaying them. So keep that in mind.
Mark Archuleta, Canyon Country. All right, you
Hey,
piqued
Mark.
my interest. You said if you're in city council, there'd be questions that you haven't been asked in a long time. Give me an example or two.
I would probably turn to Bob Keller and say, why are you still here? Well, to answer your question, Mark, I think the big one is why isn't Whitaker Burmite taken care of? That is what, and why haven't we figured out an alternative plan if SB 771 doesn't pass? Those seem to be the biggest threats to property values and the people of Santa Clarita, and yet at the same time, they just seem to be putting them off or hoping that something else is going to happen to take care of it. The Whitaker-Bermite situation is going to take 3 to 5 years to clean up some of the toxins itself, toxins, and I cannot believe that they haven't just said, let's go get this done. And my question will be, why haven't you just gone and gotten this done? So.
My name's Ken Chase from Newhall. You had mentioned when talking about the library, the city's not there to make money, but obviously there needs to be a balance between cost and services. You had mentioned lowering prices, the age for bus riders to get a discount or free ride. You had mentioned various programs such as solar stuff, which other public entities already subsidize. Can you talk a little bit about how you plan to physically balance those things out?
Well, I think I'm not talking about just giving a blank check. Let me make that very clear. But I do think that each one of these can be addressed in a moderate kind of way, to where they can be encouraged without going overboard. I mean, I threw out a number for the age of maybe 55. I don't know, maybe 60. Maybe it might not be work at all. It's just it's one of those things like, can we address it? And as Mark just asked me, it's a question that we might want to ask. Is this something we can do, and would we benefit from it? I'm not talking about going out and spending and putting us in the red. However, there are a lot of things that government is out there to do, and it's not a business. It's not to make a profit. It's out to serve the people. And I firmly believe that. And the reason government exists is to do things that private corporations don't do or won't do. And the trick is just finding a way to find that balance of not overspending, but still serving the people in the best way possible.
Okay. And now for your summation. You're right.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the Canyon Country Advisory Committee and the Moose Lodge for having us all out here tonight and for having this forum. So I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts about the campaign for City Council. There are 13 of us all trying to fill 3 positions. Resumes have been polished. People have been touting their degrees, the jobs they've had, the elected offices they've held in both government and private organizations, and all the wonderful experience they have that qualifies them to be on City Council. Tonight, I'd like to say to you, so what? It's not so much about what you've done in the past as what you intend to do in the future that should matter in an election like this. What matters is what the candidate says he is going to do, and the honesty, the integrity, and the sincerity that you believe a candidate has. I think if you really start to break down the candidates and what they stand for, you'll see, as I said, a common ideology exists with most of them. I hope tonight I've shown you that I'm a little bit different. And as I said, I'm not a politician. I am you. I have a wife, a young child, and a genuine desire to make sure that Santa Clarita stays the wonderful place that it has, all the while looking to the future for my son and the generations after him. I entered this race based on a very genuine intention to do something for the common good. So if I'm elected to the City Council, I'll base my decisions based on what you want and what would be best for not just the city itself, but for the people who live in it. Put simply, I'll bring common sense back to the government, to the people of Santa Clarita, and I urge you to vote for me. Vote for a difference. I invite further questions and discussions regarding your concerns. My website is stephenforscv.com. My contact information is on the flyers. My business cards are back there, and everything is available on the website. Please feel free to contact me. Let's talk. Let's see what we can accomplish together. And thank you for your time.